welcome to the masterclass by award-winning Slovakian director Peter Kerekes. Today, the lecture will be held in two parts. So in first part, Kerekes will have a lecture, and in the second part, we will have time for your questions and for the discussion. Just a few information. The masterclass is organized by Restart, and it's part of the program that's been running since 2009. And this is not the first time that Peter is in Zagreb. He was here also in 2017. And now this will be a nice opportunity to see how your work developed and changed. And after the masterclass, please stay and see his newest film if you didn't. It's called Wishing on a Star. So enjoy, and the floor is yours.
So this masterclass is called Blessing the Obstacles. Okay, I will be honest, I'm not telling it from the scratch for the first time, but I use it mostly to encourage students and filmmakers that to continue in their work and basically somehow overcome and overstep through all the problems and obstacles. Because when I watch backwards to my filmography, I see that all the problems, like the things that really pushed me forward, were the problems. So I'm very happy for every problem, because in the beginning it looks like really a disaster and shit, but I know from my experience that later on it will overcome somehow and will manage. I studied in a very interesting times in the end of 90s, when we had absolutely no film production in my film school in Slovakia at all. Basically, the rate of the films produced in Slovakia was half film per year. And there was the socialist film studios were privatized and cancelled. The state television was doing just some state propaganda bullshit. So basically, to finish a film school was completely no future career. And in these times, I finished my film school. And I didn't know what I will do in my life. I was pretty young. And in this period, my grandfather died. And we had a very nice and strong relationship with my grandparents, because my mother was a teacher in an art school, so she was teaching afternoon, and my father was a TV director, so he was not at home a lot, so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And when my grandfather died, we went through all the photos and everything with my grandmother. We had memories, and I promised to my grandmother that I will make a movie from our family history. And because I'm a good grandson, I tried to keep it. The problem was that there is no film industry at all in the area. We are a typical Central European family where we are Hungarians, Slovaks, German mixture, coming from Transylvania, which is now in Romania, then from Fiume, from Czech Republic, a little bit from Austria, a little bit from Slovakia, a little bit from Poland. So typical mixture. And living in Košice, which is a small city in the middle of nowhere in Slovakia nowadays. And I was thinking about the place where I can put the family history. You know, not to just have a lot of talking heads, not just to have some one specific place. And then my grandmother told a wonderful sentence, I'm quoting her, that my grandfather was a military officer in Austro-Hungarian Empire. He had problems with his lungs, and they said that the best thing will be if he can be moved to Fiume, Rijeka. And he asked, but they somehow mixed the papers, and instead of Fiume, he was in Košice, which is in the, like we have 600 kilometers to NEC. And then my grandmother says one sentence,
And the rest of his life he spent on the swimming pool. Because if you cannot make it to the sea, you have to be happy with the swimming pool. And I said, wow, like, you know, this is a philosophical metaphor from the grandmother. Because like we East Central Europeans, we never could fulfill our dreams because my grandfather, it was when the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, it was Czechoslovakia, but then he was very poor, so he couldn't go to the sea. Then he was rich again, but it was the war. Then the communists came, so he couldn't travel again. So he really had to be happy with the swimming pool. So it's a very nice metaphor. And I decided to make a film about our family based on the swimming pool, which was built in 1930 something, 33, that's, yes, 1933. And to see the whole history of the region just from the swimming pool. And this is how it looks in the film.
Tudod, Péter, az én édesapám, Krisztiánő, a te dédapád, nagybányai születésű volt, ott is nőtt fel, ott dolgozott aztán egy állami hivatalban, és fiatal korában neki is nehézségei voltak a légcsövével, úgy, mint neked most a Prieduskival. Aztán orvosai tanácsára elhatározta, hogy elköltözik Nagybányáról, lehetőleg a tengerhez, hiszen az osztrák-magyar monarchiában akkoriban lehetséges volt. Tudod, aztán elhatározta, hogy beadja a kérvényét, és be is adta az illetékes helyekre, de legnagyobb meglepetésére nem a tengerhez helyezték, hanem Kassára.
Stop.
Mondjam azt is, hogy azóta senkinek se sikerült a családból a tengerhez jutni?
Nem, az olyan túl direkt, olyan egyenes lenne. Én azt szeretném, hogy azt a néző a filmből megértse, hogy erről van a film.
Hát akkor mit mondjak, hogy...
So, in the beginning was this idea to make the whole film just from the swimming pool. But how to start, how to collect the other stories? The stories of my grandfather, of course, I knew, but I wanted to know also the stories of all other citizens. We started a huge research. Košice is a small city, it's 250,000 inhabitants, so it's not so big. And we started a huge research asking everybody, like, please ask your grandfather, grandmother, what did they do during special times, the Second World War, during the communist times, during the Soviet occupation, 1968, but what did they do on the swimming pool? And from this big amount of data, a lot of the stories were very boring, but from this big amount of the data, we could filter fantastic things. Like our city was bombed in 1941 only once, one day, actually by mistake, because it's not such an important city that it had to be bombed during the war. And we found a woman who was on that day on the swimming pool, swimming on her back and watching the airplanes on the sky. We found a woman who fell in love with a with her husband, and he was then transported to the Soviet front and never came back. So we found a wonderful collection of the stories, but we had no money, and I didn't know how to get it because there was no film fund existing in Slovakia. As I said, the television was not supporting things like this. And because I had wonderful stories, I wrote them down like an ideal film. I wrote them, it was not a literature, it was a film that I would like to see. And because I was free, I didn't have to think about any technical borders or what is possible to film or what the people will say. You know, usually my students are asking, yes, I would like to try it, but I don't know if the protagonist will allow it to me. I didn't have this problem because I had no money, no problems. So I invented the ideal movie just on the paper. And I gave it to read to some people, and they said, well, we don't have money to give you the finances for the movie, but we can publish it. So we published the film that I will never make, that I'm just dreaming about. And then luckily the political situation changed. We started to build a film fund. I got the first money, and this literature helped me a lot because it was written in a way that you have to imagine the film. And I know very well how hard it is to write down for a documentary movie. You know, how do you want to film it? Because you have to anticipate situations that will happen maybe in a completely different way. But also this writing down gave me a complete freedom during the shooting because I had the structure and the rhythm of the film in my head and in my heart. And that's why I was much more free to improvise. I could completely change the meaning of the scenes during the shooting because I knew the meaning of the whole film. So this is sometimes my advice. Of course, it is always very different. It depends on the topic you are making, but I'm giving you advice. Make your dream film first. Write it down. Imagine it. And then you can just throw away the script. You know, don't be the slave of it. But it can help you a lot. And the way how it helped us improvise, I have my favorite excerpt, maybe from all my movies I made.
Ismerünk is olyanokat, akik itt ismerkedtek meg, és házasság lett belőle, például Smidl Magdi Szarvasi Lacival, itt ismerkedtek meg a strandon, és hát nagyon sok ismerős. Bremer Joli, itt ismerkedett meg a férjével. Ezen a képen, amit itt bemutatok, 1942 nyarán lett fölvéve itt a kassai uszodában. A képen ott vagyok én, mint fiatal menyasszony, a két nagyon jó barátnőmmel és a vőlegényemmel. Emlékszem rá, egy olyan csinos, magas, fekete, jóképű férfi volt, katonatiszt. A vőlegényemmel naponta kijártunk ide az uszodába, ahol nagyon jókat úsztunk, és élveztük a víz frissességét. Az érzelmek itt keletkeztek, hát az egész világegyetemet ez tartja fönt, hogy minden egyesülni akar, és a legkisebb kőtől, legkisebb atomtól kezdve föl az emberben csúcsosodik ki az, hogy egyesülni akar a két nem, és ez benne van az egész világegyetemben. És ezt úgy nevezzük, hogy ez a szeretet, ami az emberiséget összetartja, és az egész bolygót összetartja.
Tehát az uszoda a világegyetemnek egy modellje.
Egy atomja volt.
Vagy egy modellje?
Egy modellje volt. Hasonmása.
Hasonmása?
Igen.
Gondolja, hogy találhatnánk itten az uszodán valakit, aki hasonlít a férjére?
Nem hiszem, mert tipikus egyén volt. Mokány alakkal, fekete hajjal,
fekete bajusszal és élénk fekete szemekkel. Már olyanok, mint voltak, kevés van. Elmúlt az ifjúság. Végigmentem itt, de nem találtam hasonló férfit az én megboldogult férjemnek. Egy kis hasonlatosságot találtam az itt lévő kameramannal, akinek a szemei olyan élénkek, mint a megboldogult férjemnek.
Vy ste mali koľko rokov vtedy?
23.
A to bol váš,
Manžel.
vtedy ešte frajer, nie?
Prejdem. Tak o 9 rokov starší.
No taký skoro jak ja.
No, však hovorím, teraz môžete byť nevdukom.
Môžete.
No a usmievame sa na seba, že jak nám dobre je tu na, že ideme pekne ruka v ručke a tešíme sa, že sme pekno.
Poďme postaviť chlapi na polovičku. Nežarli ste na vašom muža?
Nie.
Nič viac, ne?
Nemala som času na žiarlivosť.
Bravo!
So the woman had no time to be jealous because her husband was sent to the Soviet front and unfortunately he never came back. I like to show this excerpt because it tells how important the preparation is. My grandmother used to say, if you are prepared, if you are ready to help yourself, God will always help you. And this is a wonderful illustration of this Catholic proverb because I knew, of course, it was an invented joke in advance. I invented it on a paper when I was writing the script. Let's ask the woman that she will walk around the swimming pool and she will find somebody who is similar, who looks like her husband. And there are two possibilities that can happen. Like one, she will say, well, this guy looks like my ex-husband, like my husband. Or possibility number two, she said, the men today, you know, they are not really interesting. Like, I couldn't find anybody. And we prepared the filming that she will get this question unprepared. So she will not know what will happen. I wanted to film the surprise. And we had to prepare also that she will walk on the way how we want without telling her. So you have to prepare the whole setup with the crew that there are the guy on with the microphone on the right side, so she will not go there because there is against the sun, so you cannot film there. So we had to prepare a whole choreography. So everything was perfectly planned. She was walking around. She was not happy with any husband. And then you see you have two versions prepared. And then she comes with the version number 3 that never expected, you know, that it will happen. And this is the way I love to work with so-called documentary film. On one side, there are a lot of things that are perfectly planned and written, but there is always a space for the improvisation. Always something that can completely change sometimes even the meaning of the scene. Like, I try to be as open as possible. And this preparation gives me this freedom to be open. Speaking about the obstacles and how all these things can make your film a little bit better, we spent a wonderful summer on the swimming pool. Actually, production-wise, it was like we got the film fund money. I decided to use 90% of the budget to buy film stock. So this is filmed on 60mm film. which is super important for me because first of all, it's expensive. And you have to be very well prepared for the interviews, because you know that you have 10 minutes in one role. So after 10 minutes, you have to change the role. You have to stop the shooting, change it. Second one, you know that 1 second is $1. Just here in this old camera, the scratch, how it is just turning, and it's $1. $1. So you have to be really very well prepared, and you have to know what do you want to film and why. And the second thing was that we made with a crew some kind of agreement that it will be a holiday. The swimming pool is open from 9 to 4, so we don't have long filming days. I cooked for them. We got 100 liters of wine from my Hungarian family, and that was the salary. And we spent a wonderful summer. And 4 days before closing the film, my camera, they called me from the laboratories in Prague that my camera assistant fucked up 15 rolls of the film. So like minimum 4 days were completely gone. And we didn't have time to reshoot it because on the 1st of September, the swimming pool is closed. So it was even not so much a question of money, because I could still sell my car and buy the material, but it was a question like no possibility, like the swimming pool is closed, it's closed, you know, no people there, you cannot reenact these scenes again. And I fell in a complete depression. Like it was really terrible, you know, like you have your first movie, you are almost there, and then suddenly it's broken. And these 4 days that we missed, it was really like very important. But I had to deliver something. So we started the editing, we started to sort the film, we started to build a structure with these missing scenes. And when I was super unhappy and I was showing it to the potential co-producers, they said, this film is fantastic. We really like it. Do you want more money? And basically, if I wouldn't have this clumsy camera assistant, I would finish a boring film. And thanks to him, I got a possibility to film more things that I was thinking in the beginning, to reshoot some clumsy scenes that I filmed wrongly. But also what was very important, I got the feeling of the time in this film. Because we were filming with the pregnant woman in summer 2001, and she was wonderful with her big belly, and I'm asking her if she is a walking swimming pool because the baby is swimming in her belly. And in 2022, we found the same woman because it's a small city with already a 1-year-old baby. There is a group of old men who are going to the swimming pool just to drink beer and watch young girls. And one of them unfortunately died. So this circle of life suddenly started to be the film. It was not just a linear retelling of the history, but it was again like this recircling, reborning changes. So instead of the original title, what was The Old Swimming Pool, which sounds quite awkward, it started to be 66 seasons because it was already 66 season when we finished the film. And suddenly the season is something that is positive. It's repeating, you know, it will come all the time anew and new and new. And I think this is a very important message of the film. And I will show you how it works.
Keď sa človek narodí ako detsko je v malom bazéne, trošku sa naučí plávať, príde do stredného bazénu, aj z toho vyrastie a pôjde do veľkého, hlbokého bazénu. A potom ide na pivo a s pivom potom prejde zase do detského bazénu s vnúčatami. A ešte by si trošku začvachtal, ale už potom príde záverečná. A jemu sa nechce, ale záverečná je koniec. Vy sa kam ponáhľate naspäť? Ďakujem pekne. Ďakujem. S tým sledoval, tým som si kým.
Dovidenia. Ruský sa zmierite.
Čo sa stane s človekom, keď opustí túto plaváreň? Tak ide plávať do Veľkého mora, pravdepodobne.
Tie pohyby v bruchu, tak je to také spomalené, také zlaté veľmi. Chodiaca plaváreň. Môže byť aj tak.
Čo sa stane s človekom, keď zomrie?
Keď zomrie, že by išlo zo vzduchu do vody. No neviem, ale myslím, že duša ide skôr do vzduchu ako do vody. Telo ide do zemi.
Trošku sa naučí plávať, príde do stredného bazénu, aj z toho vyrastie, pôjde do veľkého bazénu.
Tak povedáš si mal?
Kedy sme tu boli spolu naposledy?
Myslím, že presne pred rokom. Ešte nemá rok, o týždeň bude mať rok.
Ako sa volá?
Katarína. Katka. Áno?
Čo si myslíte, kde je teraz pán Jonec?
Tak neviem, niekto je veriaci, niekto nie je veriaci. Áno, je možno, že sa práve pozerá na nás hora, že ak to pekne sedíme a sa usmieva a že možno, že nie, možno, že áno.
Veríme na karmu, možno začal nový život.
What is interesting, this film is exactly 22 years old. And when we had the 20th anniversary of the film, we had a screening in Košice, in my hometown. And all the survivors arrived. Of course, all the grannies are not with us anymore. And there I realized how important is the film when you make it with heart, when you make it with your relatives. That my grandmother, my father, Dr. Jonec, and all these people in the movie, they are still alive. You know, like they are still telling the jokes. And 20 years passed away, and the people are laughing on the same things and on the same places. And it just make me stronger the belief that the film is not so much about images and sound, but that is very much about the energy. I made this film with no documentary experience. The only thing that I had was love to the people that I was filming. And I think this is somehow reflecting from the screen. So I hope that was very important for me. Speaking about the obstacles, when we started this film, we had the luck because the funds started to work. So we got funding that I could buy the film stock, and we had a co-producer like the Czech and Slovak television that gave us just some technical equipment, and they said we will screen it at 2:00 Saturday you know, when nobody's watching it. And when we started to do the 35 film print, we found a guy who is doing it in Prague in his garage. And he was doing this sound, magnetic sound line to 35 prints. I don't know if you are familiar with these technical things. It's kind of like old school. And he was doing it all his life. And when he was in a pension, he was doing it like privately for some small money. So he saw all the Czechoslovak cinema with his eyes personally, because he was doing the sound to all the Czechoslovak cinema. And he said, I love this movie. And he just picked up the phone and called his very good friend, who was even at that time very old lady, Eva Zauralova, programmer of the Karlovy Vary Film Festival. And he said, this is a beautiful film, you have to screen it. And she said, yes, but our catalog is already in printing. Like, no, you must screen it. And this is how the festival career of this film started, and since that time is still traveling, even if it is 20 years later. So it was something that I was never expecting. It was a film that I made with no ambitions, just to fulfill the promise to my grandmother that yes, I will make a film one day. And it turned out that it was screened in plenty of places and sold to a lot of televisions, and it was a very good feedback until today. And then when you make a film, and what is important, I had absolutely no obligations. Like I was a complete free person, like a producer and also like a director. I had no boss. For the television, you know, they don't mind, you know, if it has 90 minutes and end credits, they will broadcast it. So, you know, you cannot say some vulgar words, and otherwise they will show anything. I think you know it from Croatia as well. And I was the producer myself. So this complete freedom is reflecting and mirroring in this film, I guess. After it, I got a complete different situation. The film was successful on festivals, and the people started to offer me cooperation and asking me, what is your next movie? And I didn't have any next movie. I thought this is one film that I make for my grandmother, and then I will do some television bullshit all the rest of my life. I had no dreams for filming that time. And I was visiting my father, the guy on the swimming pool who is speaking about the free pools. It's my father. And we used to cook a lot together. And during the cooking, when two men are cooking, you have a lot of stupid jokes. And one of these jokes was that what can be my profession, like what I can work. And I said, I love cook, I love film. I don't like the responsibility that you have a film director, so maybe I can be chef on a set, like to do a catering cook. And I think the catering cooks in the film are really very important people, because if you make good food, the crew is happy and the filming is go well. Then we had some sexy, stupid jokes, like if you do a lot of bean food before a love scene, it can completely spoil the movie. And out of this joking just came the idea, what about make a film about military cooks? Like how the military cook is really important in the army. And we started to talk about it, and I realized that it's not just about food and war, but it can be it can be a film about responsibility of every so-called small man, small person, because we are always responsible for everything what we are doing. Coming back to 66 seasons, my family lived during 3 dictatorships, 2 half democracies, and you always have to deal with the power. My grandmother was a teacher, you know, she had to teach Czechoslovak ideology before the war, then Hungarian fascist ideology, then communist ideology. And it's still, you have a choice, like how much you are going to collaborate, how much you are going to fight, whatever. You still have a big responsibility, even you are not the big general, even you are not a politician. With everything what you are doing in your life, you have a responsibility towards the so-called big history. And the military cook can be a wonderful symbol of it. So I went to my Austrian friend and said, yeah, we will make a film about military cooks. And they liked it a lot. And we were in a completely different situation suddenly, because we wrote a very short treatment, like what we want to film and why. It was 2005. And we got the very nice funding from Austria, from media, European funds, Czech Republic, and so. And we started, and the situation completely changed. In 66 seasons, I had no money and no responsibility. In cooking history, I had plenty of responsibility and quite a lot of money. But this pressure was really very high. And the most terrible thing is that when the people are coming, the producers are coming to you and saying, oh, we love your 66 seasons funny movie so much. Is your next movie going to be fun also? But how you know that you are going to be fun? You know, how you know that you can make the humor? It was really a big pressure. We decided that in cooking history, we will focus only on European food and only on European history and only on people that are still alive. So we can go from the Second World War and then the most recent war in that times were Chechnya. Because Miloš Forman, a famous Czech director, says that I can make films only in countries and places where I understand the jokes. And when he moved to United States, he stopped to make contemporary films. It was all historical movies because he didn't know what is funny on the things that are people speaking in the pub. And we had wonderful stories from Afghanistan and Vietnam, but I had a feeling that I'm just some privileged fat white man being in exotic place collecting some exotic stories. Like, you know, if you cannot get these jokes, in Balkan I'm used to say ja razumím a ne kapiram, it's a problem. So I said, okay, let's have Germany, because part of my family is German. I speak some Gastarbeiterdeutsch, so I can understand what they are speaking about. And of course, from the Second World War, it's a very important, also like a topic. Then let's have the Russia. We were occupied by the Russians, so I had to learn Russian in the school. And the culture is, of course, very close to me. I grew up in Russian literature. Then let's have Hungary and their uprising in 1956, because I have a Hungarian nationality. Then let's have all from ex-Yugoslavian wars, because it's culturally so close. You know, I grew up on Andrić, on Danilo Kiš and all this literature, and still at that time, it was 20 years ago, it was very present. The only exception we had was France, because I don't speak French, but you cannot have a film about food and avoid France. So that we started to research. And it was really very interesting how it is easy to find the most crazy protagonists in the film. In every country, thanks to my festival experience, I had film directors that we had a lot of drinks together and that I found friendly, and we had the same sense of humor. So I just wrote them if they would like to work for me as researchers. I wrote down the wish list, what I would like to have, and then they just started to search the military cooks. And it's also funny how national prejudice is 99% working. You know, if you are speaking about lazy Italians and, you know, hardworking Germans and everything. So in the case of this film, it was 99% absolutely true. In Germany, there are Freundschaft. There are some societies of the veterans of the Second World War, I think 103 or something like that. And their addresses are public, and we wrote 103 official letters. We are searching military cooks. And we got, in 30 days, 103 replies. Some of them were completely negative. No, we are not interested in collaboration. And some of them were positive in a very politically correct German way, that we cannot give you the addresses of the people because of the GDPR, but we can forward your request to them and they will contact you. And this is how we got fantastic people from Germany. In Russia, we had to bribe everybody to get some informations. It was really very expensive. And in France, we also wrote to the veterans from the war in Algeria. And we got the first replies 2 months after the premiere of the film. It was kind of like typical for every country. What might be useful for filmmakers? Because these are just funny stories. I had a wish list of the people that I would like to meet. And I got a selection from my researchers. And I went and personally met 107 military cooks through all the Europe. We spent 30% of the budget just on the research. And I met there was no phone call interviews, no Skype interviews. Everything was personal. I traveled them. I spoke with them. And from these 107 cooks, I selected 20. And I met them again. After 1 year, I came to them back, and I was continuing the conversation. And they were very surprised. They said, I said everything. And I said, yes, you said all the facts, but now I'm interested in emotions. And it's funny how this breaking the distance, if you travel 1,200 kilometers to Hamburg to meet the old man who has a feeling that he told you everything, and you meet him again, and you just want to continue the dialogue, it creates some friendship. I don't know why it is. I'm not good in psychology. I don't know why it is working like this, but all of them were really very happy that somebody is interested even after the interview. And then I came back for the third time. My producer was completely crazy. He said, you have everything now? And for the third time, I came back and I consulted with them what we are going to film. I asked them, where do you want to be filmed? I asked them, what stories do you like? So basically, it's much more their film than mine. And it was really very important because they felt very, very, very comfortable. And again, like in 66 Seasons, I wrote down a very specific script. Also because of the language, I don't speak all of this language 100%. So I need to know what they will tell in the terms of facts. And at the end of every chapter, there was a set of so-called stupid questions. And I had to also prepare these stupid questions because these people are telling the stories so many times that their energy can go a little bit down. And you have to wake them up with something unexpected. Like, for example, when a German cook was speaking that he is out of any ideology, that he was not interested in ideology, he was doing just his job, he's just a cook. I asked him, okay, but why didn't you eat your dead comrades? And he said, he get completely angry. I said, well, because that we are not eating people, it's ideology. So you cannot say that I am not working with ideology. Let's think about it, And this is something how you make the people not just tell some stories, but you are making them thinking in front of the camera. But for these things, during the filming, you are so stressed because you don't know, is the camera on? Do we have enough film material? Are the microphones working? The cinematographer is hungry. The batteries are going down. So you have 100 technical problems and you don't have time to prepare. So to improvise, to think, to spend energy on thinking. So that's why usually I had these unexpected questions prepared. And then we were playing with the people very similar like in 66 Seasons, and here is a small excerpt about it, if we will be on.
Das deutsche Brot ist das beste Brot auf der Welt, auf der ganzen Welt. Ich habe Lust, im weiten Feld zu streiten mit dem Feind, wohl als ein tapferer Kriegesheld, der treu und redlich meint. Wenn wir streiten Seite an Seite und die alten Lieder singen, glauben wir, es muss gelingen. Mit uns zieht die neue Zeit, ja, mit uns zieht die neue Zeit.
Langsam, Martin. Ja, das ist aber jetzt hoch.
Oh,
Oh,
ist das jetzt wie in 39 in Polen?
oh,
Ja, da ist schneller gegangen.
oh.
Das waren noch Lieder aus unserer Jugendzeit. Und Jugendzeit will ich bis zu so weit.
Что вы думаете? Какой хлеб самый лучший в мире?
Черный, потому что он сытный и полезный.
Вы все фронты в Европе прошли, много хлеба покушала. В какой стране, какая нация лучше всего хлеб печет?
Да, наверное, одинаково везде пекут. Хлеб есть хлеб, невзирая на нации.
This is again about importance of preparation of the film before the shooting. I knew that I will ask this question everybody, like what food is the best, you know, the Serbian or the Croatian one, the German or the Russian one. And we filmed first with Mr. Weinhardt in Germany, and he said this fantastic sentence, das deutsche Brot ist das Beste am der ganzen Welt. And when I was asking the Russian lady, like what bread is the best, I was expecting that she will say the Russian. And then she says, no, the bread doesn't have any nationality. And these are against things that can work only when you are really prepared. When you write it down, you are prepared, you know what you are expecting, because also the frame, how we were filming them, was filmed in a way that we can edit it together. You know, like I made a photo, screenshot, and I knew that we are filming Mr. Weinhardt like this way and then the woman on this way, so they can have a dialogue in the editing. So you have to think in advance, but be still free for the improvisation. So the film will be still alive. It will. They will not be just puppets. They have a right to have their own words and their own life. The importance of preparation of the film together with the protagonist led to some really beautiful results. I will show the final chapter of the film, Cooking History. It's a little bit longer. And it's a story of Mr. Silbernagel, again from Germany. And he was a cook on a submarine. It was a school submarine, and then sank, and all his comrades died. Sorry for the spoiler. And when we were... No, first I will show it, then I will tell you how we made it.
Ja, also das ist eine U-Bootsküche hier und wir sind ja hier auf der Marineversorgungsschule und da werden die zukünftigen U-Bootsköche ausgebildet. Und wie Sie sehen, es ist an für sich recht viel Platz hier drin. Das bin ich gar nicht gewöhnt, also von unseren U-Bootsküchen her. Das ist sehr, sehr luxuriös. Und dieses Boot, wo ich gewesen bin, auf dem U-Boot Hai, das war einfach, wenn man das mal kurz aufmacht hier, das war dieser Platz, mehr war es nicht gewesen. Also hier war ein kleines Waschbecken und hier waren 2 Herdplatten gestanden. Das war die ganze Kombüse. Und hier hat sich schon der erste Schlafplatz angeschlossen. Da haben sich praktisch die Füße verbrannt, wenn die Töpfe heiß waren da dran. Das beliebteste Essen, das war einfach ein Stück Fleisch mit Gemüse und Kartoffeln. Der Hai war ja ein Weltkriegsboot, das fuhr noch im Zweiten Weltkrieg und wurde Ende des Krieges von der Besatzung selbst versenkt. Und das Boot wurde 1955 wieder gehoben und auf der Werft instand gesetzt und dann für die Bundeswehr hergerichtet. Und wir haben es dann weiter in Betrieb gehalten bis zu dem damaligen Unglück dann. Ne? Also wenn wir so im U-Boot gestanden hätten, dann hätten wir gemerkt, da ist was faul. Ne?
Haben Sie ein Rezept gegen die Angst?
Gegen die Angst habe ich kein Rezept. Das muss jeder mit sich alleine ausmachen. Der eine kann es, der andere kann es nicht. Ich hoffe doch, dass die Koteletts schmecken werden. Man kann es nie wissen vorher. Das war ganz einfach. Wir waren auf der Überfahrt nach England. Es war sehr stürmisch. Wir haben uns zum Abendessen auf Grund gelegt. Wir haben nur Abendbrot gegessen. Das gab Kalbbrot und Wurst. Das war fertig und wir sind wieder aufgetaucht. Das war alles.
Ja. Was war weiter?
Ja, was dann weiter war. Und während des Auftauchens, das Boot liegt ja dann ungefähr mit einem Winkel von 25 Grad, kam auf einmal hinten der Schrei aus der Maschine, Wassereinbruch in der Maschine. Und in dem Moment, der Kommandant war schon im Turm, der hat das Turmlug schon aufgemacht, weil der Turm war schon aus dem Wasser. Der kam sofort wieder runtergesprungen und hat in den Maschinenraum geguckt. Was er gesehen hat, das weiß nun keiner mehr, weil der Mann hat es ja auch nicht überlebt. Und daraufhin kam der Befehl, alle Mann von Bord. Er raste sofort wieder nach oben auf den Turm. Und wir haben uns unsere Tauchräder geschnappt. Den muss man ja immer dabei haben in so einem Fall. Den Tauchräder geschnappt und dann auch den Turm hochgeklettert, also von innen. Und wie wir dann oben ankamen, also wie ich ankam oben, habe ich gesehen, dass der Turm ungefähr so, wie ich jetzt im Wasser stehe, aus dem Wasser rausgeguckt hat. Also, und das Boot selbst war noch unter Wasser und der Turm hat etwas rausgeguckt. Und das war dann blitzschnell, da lief eine Welle über uns weg und hat uns alle, denn normalerweise, wenn es heißt, alle Mann von Bord, sollte man, wenn man oben ist im Turm, gleich aus dem Bord springen. Das hat aber keiner gemacht. Wir standen halt da und da kam eine Welle, ist über uns drüber gelaufen und hat uns allesamt aus dem Turm rausgespült. Und das nächste, was ich gesehen habe, war, das Boot hat senkrecht im Wasser gestanden. Der Bug guckte vielleicht noch so 3-4 Meter aus dem Wasser raus. Und dann ging es abwärts. Das war innerhalb einer Minute, war kein Boot mehr da. Das. Okay. Wir waren mit 5 Mann im Wasser und wir sind dann möglichst lange zusammengeblieben. Aber nach 4 Stunden bei dieser Wassertemperatur von 12 Grad waren meine 4 Kameraden alle tot. bin dann weggeschwommen von den Vieren und bin die Nacht dann eine ziemlich weite Strecke geschwommen. Immer mit den Wellen. Eine Richtung hat man ja nicht. Das war ja mitten in der Nordsee. Also an Land zu schwimmen wäre ein Ding der Unmöglichkeit. Das wären fast 200 Kilometer gewesen, also nach jeder Richtung. Es war utopisch. Und? Ich war 14 Stunden dann im Wasser geschwommen, bei einer Wassertemperatur von 12 Grad und das überlebt normalerweise kein Mensch. Und damals haben sie mir gesagt, bei dieser Wassertemperatur wäre das höchste der Gefühle wären 4 Stunden. So, die Koteletts sind fertig.
Und für wem sind denn diese Koteletts?
Das ist für die unsichtbare Besatzung.
Was really a very hard task. Mr. Silbernagel was kind of a star for German media in 60s. He did a lot of interview, and he's telling his stories a little bit like me in my masterclass, so he told it several times. And the question was how to make it really interesting. So I wanted to film him in a situation that will emotionally bring back the situation of the drowning. So we had a guy with an underwater camera, but imagine that we were filming on a 16mm camera, so it was really a big special batisca for that. It was not so simple like nowadays. And I wanted Mr. Silbernagel to swim and tell the story during the swimming on the sea. But his doctor said that forget about it. Like his heart is weak and he cannot do that for a long time. Like we can do 1 or 2 takes, but I knew that it will take longer. I didn't want to kill him, so I said, okay, let's make something different. And actually he came up with the idea that we have to make it on the sea during the tide, during the low tide. So we went with my cinematographer during the low tide. We found the exact spot. We're standing there for several hours, measuring when the water is exactly this height, put a GPS spot there, and next day we went to film exactly to that place. It was one take, there is no editing. And I have no idea how we made this fantastic timing. I wanted to start the filming sooner. My cinematographer said, I'm a little bit hungry, I want to have a chocolate. So he went to the boat for a chocolate. And this saved the film. Because if we did it normally, we lose this magic moment when the water is taking out the things. And it's like really no post-production, nothing. It's magic. The second magic thing that happened, that on the island of Sylt in North Germany, there is a Navy military school for German Navy. And we had a lot of special papers that allowed us to film there. It was really very complicated because it's a military secret base, everything, because they have a model of a submarine kitchen. Because the future submarine chefs, they need to know how to cook in these small places. So it's a real model of the submarine kitchen of a German Navy. And we wanted to film there with Mr. Silbernagel, how he's cooking. We prepared everything. And we had a German press officer who was in charge to take care of us. And he was really a asshole. And he had an order from his superiors that he had to help us filming, but he didn't like us. And in the moment when we started to cook, he said, yes, but you don't have a paper from a doctor that Mr. Silbernagel has no disease, that he's not sick, so he cannot cook here. Because we have rules that only a person approved by a doctor can cook here. They said, yeah, but we will not eat it, I promise. We will throw it away, ecologically destroy it, whatever, but please let us know. And he was super strict, like, no way. And I had no idea what to do, to travel to Silt. It's really 1,300 kilometers from Bratislava. You pay a super expensive accommodation, 2 filming days for the whole film crew. And this guy says, no. And, I can kill him, but then I couldn't finish the film. So I said to Mr. Silbernagel, like, okay, let's do some fake cooking. I don't know. Everything was prepared. We were setting up the lights for 4 hours. So let's just do some invisible schnitzel. He said, you are crazy. Your producer is going to fire you. I said, I am the producer. It's fine. And we did it. And I had no idea why. And we were filming it like 3 hours. The press officer was super happy that, I destroyed their film. And when I was a teenager, I was working in a restaurant in Berlin. So with my very bad German, I remember some words and some sentences. So when Mr. Silbernagel is showing the empty plate, I remember that invisible is in German unsichtbar. And I asked für wen diese unsichtbar Schnitzel? And he said, for my invisible crew, for my friends that died. And I said, yes, God exists. Like all this struggling, everything that we made and it looked like no reason, with this one wonderful answer that he's cooking invisible food for all the friends that are already dead. So it's like souls, only soul food. What is invisible, so he's making it for them. It was super strong, and that's why we decided to put at the end of the movie, because the film is going quite chronological, and you see how nations are fighting one against another. We have the Second World War, the Germans, the Russians. We have the Serbs, the Croats, the Chechens and the Russians, the French and Algerians. But suddenly this guy at the end of the film, he's fighting against destiny. He's fighting about something that is much more beyond any nationalism, just for survive. So that's why this beautiful mistake made us to make the film even better. So anytime you have some obstacle and problem, just think about it, that it's really possible to solve, and it can move your film much more forward. Now something completely different. Meanwhile, I made some films that are not so interesting. And one day, my cinematographer came back from his trip to China, and as he had to change the flight in Saudi Arabia, he was waiting on the airport. And usually what we men are doing when we are waiting on the airport and we are alone, we are watching and reading female fashion magazines. So Martin was checking Elle and Marie Claire and all this, and he found out that somebody, it was a very long time ago, it was 2010, that somebody with a black pen the naked parts of the female bodies. And like if you had miniskirts, the legs were covered by a black pen. When the woman has a décolleté, it was covered by a black pen. And he saw that it's not just in one magazine, but everywhere. So this is how in Saudi Arabia they made a censorship 15 years ago. Now it is photoshopped. It's not this type anymore. But we are thinking it can be really interesting to film a movie about a censor who is in the morning going with his kids to the kindergarten, and he's going to the work, and you have a big pile of fashion magazines, and all the day he's just, scratching with black pen beautiful woman. And we started to research about it, and we realized that it would be interesting to have more censors, not just this in Saudi Arabia. And maybe we can make a collage. So we had some censors from Nollywood in Nigeria that are censoring the films. And of course, censoring the letters in the prison. because this is the I like controversial things. You know, if we say censorship, everybody says this is something bad. But if you realize that if the prisoners, the criminals, they can continue their criminal activities, we have to control it and prevent it somehow. So the person who is reading the letters of criminals, it's a so-called good censorship. And I like these topics that are controversial, like not going with the mainstream. So we wanted to make a film about good censors. And because we had not so much money for the development, we started to do the research in prisons, because it was the most easy thing, much more cheaper than fly to Saudi Arabia. And in European Union, everybody was completely afraid, like in Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, like you want to film in prison, how we are censoring the letters, we don't want to take part in it. So we decided to go to Ukraine. It was 2012, 2013. And they were very open. And we found a fantastic person, a censor, Irina Kiryazeva from Odessa. In that time, a 35 years old woman. And when I asked her like this semi-polite question, you know, like, what about your partner? Are you single? Are you married? She said, I cannot have a partner. I'm all the days just reading love letters from man to woman. And if I go to the dates and I listen this cliche, like you are different than the others, I start to vomit. And I said, wow, that's a character. Let's follow her. And she was working in two parts of the prison. One was for men and one was for women. And these prisoners in the male prison, it's from Soviet styles, they have a tradition of writing to women that are on freedom. And they have a very sophisticated system how to get addresses and contacts. And usually they find women that are old, ugly, and fat. And they start to write them love letters. Usually these women are not very rich. But even nowadays in 21st century, living in Ukraine, you are never so poor that you cannot find money for one pack of cigarettes and to send it to your lover in the prison. And if you have 7 women like this, you have every day something to smoke. So this is a business model that these guys are making. And I was interested in the guys, but also in the women, why they are making it. So we started to travel more and more to Odessa, and we started to work on a film. This is a teaser.
Раз, два, три, четыре. 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 Раз.
Ну расскажи, Андрюха, какая она из себя?
Ты знаешь, это личное, я бы не сильно хотел распространяться на эту тему. Обычная девушка.
Просто ты как бы хочешь, чтобы я тебе помог. Вот. Ну, я должен чуть знать о ней. Какая из себя, что там? Красивая, некрасивая.
Да, ничего, симпатичная.
Родители есть там, деньжата, водятся.
Может быть, может быть. Нормальная девчонка запала мне в душу. Хотел бы с ней пообщаться.
Ну, привет.
Привет.
Ты писала, как дети у тебя, как они там?
Да, 2 детей. Растут.
Жестко. Сиськи. Очень бы хотел увидеть твои сиськи.
Какая колбаса должна
Колбасу вези любую, всю.
быть? Говяжья, свиная.
Вези, что будет, то и вези. Слушай, ты супер, ты вообще просто такая классная, не то что на фотографиях. Вообще просто. Я в шоке сейчас. Дай мне руку свою на стекло. Я хочу почувствовать тебя. Я прямо ощущаю через это стекло твое тепло.
Здравствуй, любовь моя.
With some of these women, they are speaking about everyday life. With some of these women, they are speaking about like, show me your breasts. And with some of them, send me some sausages and what type of salami and so on. And we filmed this teaser, some excerpts. There are some beautiful situations where the older prisoner, like Cyrano, is writing for the other ones love letters. And everybody loved it on the pitching forums and on the festival, on these industry days. And I realized that I'm not able to make this movie because the material was strong enough to make a, I think, good teaser, but I didn't have any, like, it was not enough to make a good movie. Somehow I lost the power balance between the prisoners and me. Like in the prison, it's super important, like to catch the right power balance. And when I try to be friend with them, they knew that I'm the weaker, so they basically stole the movie and stole the show, and they were just showing how tough guys they are and having these sexist jokes, and you can use it for a minute, you know, like interesting, but for a long movie it's not enough. And when I came back half year later, and I was the tough guy because of course I was a good friend with the director of the prison, so I could really make miserable their lives if I wanted. So I was using the power and saying, come on, like you have to, you know, it's different. The power game was broken again. You know, it was not equal. And you can make some interesting images, but you cannot make a good film when you don't have a good power balance. And I was really unhappy, and I decided to give up this film. But because one of the central point why I decided to make this movie in Odessa was Irina Kiryazeva, the censor, the female one, I decided to follow her a little bit longer. And instead of the male prison, we started to watch her in a prison for women. And there we saw that there are women, mothers, with their children up to the age of 3 years. Because if they have small babies, up to the age of 3, they can be together. Then the psychologist said, like, if the baby is more than 3 years old, it's not good, the prison environment. But up to 3 years, the bonding and the connection with the mother is more important than the prison environment. So there were these women, and when they are sentenced to, when their sentence is bigger, so when they have to sit 4, 5, 6 years, the baby they try to place in the family, but usually the family bondings are completely destroyed. That's why they are in prison. And the child is going to the orphanage. And legally they have a right to see the baby, but of course it's so complicated to go from Lemberg, from Lviv down to Odessa, you know, to show the child for one day to the mother. So basically from this moment they are losing the children. And we were just hanging around with a very small camera, And one day a woman told us that my child is going out today, like they are going to take it to the orphanage, and please can you film it? And I was feeling like, you know, like this is, you know, I can imagine to film sex scene, whatever, but this is much more intimate, you know, like the mother losing the child, and she said, no, I want to have a memory. So please, I'm begging you, film it. So we said, okay, like we film it. Irina, the censor, was of course there, and we did this. We filmed it really how it was, and then I decided to completely change the film. And we already spent 20 filming days in the male prison. So it was really like a very, very courageous decision, and moved to the female prison and to make film about women in the prison. And not to make it like a documentary, but to make it like a fiction. Because I realized that when we were filming documentary, the prison guards and everybody tried to make it much more nicer. And when we said that we are doing a fiction, the prison guards said, this is not real. In reality, it's much more dirty. So they were helping us through the fiction to show the reality. And we did a casting, and we filmed the whole film in a real prison with real prisoners, except the main character. It's a young woman who is coming to the prison. She's giving the birth in a prison. And then we are following her 3 years, that we really filmed for 3 years. But of course, she was not 3 years in the prison. She was just coming there for working days. And with a baby who is slowly growing up, and then the destiny will happen. I don't want to spoil it. What will happen with the baby? Is it's going to the orphanage or not? And basically, we used all the documentary material like a script, and we staged it with actors or with real prisoners like actors. So that we told the real prisoners, okay, you are here because you killed your husband, so in the film you will be also a murderer, but you killed the girlfriend of your husband. And the emotions, they were the same, and they were very realistic. I think none of the actors, except like some Brigitte Bardot, can really do that as they did. So we moved completely from documentary to fiction, but just because we wanted to show the real life, how it is going on. That's it. And the film is called 107 Mothers. We also had a Croatian distribution, and I think you can find it online in DA Film, so it's possible to see the whole movie. So that's the story from making a film on a swimming pool just for my grandmother, and finishing making a fiction movie somewhere in Odessa, where we use documentary material, but the result and the outcome is completely fiction. And I think we have 10 minutes for your questions, or maybe a little bit more.
What about your new film? How it happened? Just a small intro, because I would like to stay here, so
Yes.
say it later.
We soon start the Wishing on a Star. It's something completely unexpected, because usually I invent my movies, I produce them, and I'm responsible for all the technical problems with the films. Wishing on a Star, that you will see if you will stay, it was absolutely not my idea. It was the idea of Italian writeress and producer Erika Barbiani. And she is a client of astrologist Luciana De Leoni from North Italy. It's close to Palmanova. And she said, I want to make a film about astrologists. And I said, it's not a topic for me. I'm making a films about personal responsibility of a small human being in Central Europe towards the big history. I make philosophical films, psychological films about motherhood. I don't make films about astrology. It's not for me. It's not my level. But she was really insisting. And I met Luciana. And if you will see the movie, you will understand why I fell in love with Luciana, with the astrologist, because she's a fantastic psychologist. She's very interesting how she's speaking with people, and the stories around it were really fascinating. So I was refusing 3 years. Like, she always invited me to Trieste for a dinner. We speak, we drink wine, and she said, "And what about astrology?" And I said, "No way." And then after 3 years, I said, "Okay, let's try it," and it was really a very interesting experience. In that case, I just can thank you for the presence. If you will have time, then try to watch Wishing on a Star. And for me, it's interesting because it's a completely different movie, like from anything that I made before. And also, if you will be interested, we had a very nice Croatian distribution of cooking history. And Kuhanje, povijesti is the Croatian title, I guess. And I think it's still available online on the A Films, so you can watch it there. Thank you very much.